Hello. Welcome to episode 6 of season 2 of Calm Down with James Eade. This segment of the show is dedicated to yoga practices that can help us calm down. And the more we understand about our body, the better we can be in control of our emotions and our ability to remain calm. Because when we are calm, we make better decisions. Life seems to go a little bit easier if we aren't all riled up all the time. So I don't know enough to teach this, but I know someone who does. Yudisthira, a yoga teacher, trainer, and therapist. Good morning to you.
Good
And
morning, Jim.
and I would I want you to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're getting ready to talk about the second chakra.
We are,
Okay.
and yeah, I mean we are talking about the second chakra. It has a Sanskrit name, like everything else in yoga. It's called Swadhisthana. Um,
Swadhisthana.
and Swa, that first part, Swa, is self, and the second chakra. I asked you to be part of this conversation because the second chakra is one that is oftentimes really um, overemphasized in terms of sexuality. And it's not that that's wrong at all. In fact, I want to sort of begin by pointing out or reminding you and your audience that the physical form that we are in, the physical organs we possess, the energies that we feel from the result of the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems connected to our endocrine system. These driving forces are powerful.
Yes.
And the second chakra is a powerful chakra. And the it is helpful to go back and remember that from a yogi point of view, here's how things work: is that there is a soul, an Atman, in the or a Jivan in the astral world, and that in the material world there is a joining together of an egg and a sperm. That joining together, no matter how it occurs, is a spark that draws certain souls. And according to Yogananda, there's a little bit of a competition here, that there's a race to get there,
Wow.
because that situation, those people, that family is the right situation for that soul to be reincarnated.
Okay.
All right. And so um, and at that point, you then have the soul whose karma may be such. There's a lot of talk about, a lot of um, angry conversations in our country about abortion and women's rights, rightfully so. But it may very well be that the karma needed by that soul does not end in a successful birth, but that the first thing that begins to be built within that,
Very interesting. Sorry. I was
the
just
first thing that
reflecting on
becomes,
it.
yeah, the first thing that becomes built in the human body is from that sperm and egg uniting. After you get through the first stages of, cell reproduction, when you get to the stage of a zygote, what you end up with is the very beginning of the central nervous system.
Mhm.
And the very first part that forms is at the medulla. Right?
Right. I
And then
remember that.
everything else begins to continue. So you get a spinal cord,
Right.
the original, um, it's not vestiges, it's the beginnings of a brain. But I mean, that's what forms first. But that formation comes from a pattern that is really similar to what a blueprint or a CAD drawing would represent to a
Mhm.
building.
Right.
All
I
right,
understand.
it's not a physical thing, but
Right.
it is a diagram of what's going to be built.
Mhm.
And so when it comes to the first chakra, there's a lot of people who, and we talked about this last week, there's a lot of people who are stuck in their first chakra. They are unwilling to listen to other people's opinions. They are uh, unwilling to change. Routine, fixed routine is very important to them. Whereas when the energy of the first chakra is moving upward, it joins forces with that second chakra. So what you end up with is the positive first chakra, which is like loyalty, loyalty to your friends, loyalty to what you believe in, but a willingness to change. And when you come up to chakra number 2, the quality of that chakra, the elemental quality, is that of water.
Mm-hmm.
Water is fluid, it
Yes,
flows,
absolutely.
it conforms to the shape
Right.
of whatever it's in.
Whatever vessel it is,
Yeah.
holding it. Yes.
Or if it's moving through a stream, it flows around the rocks.
Right.
And that is the good side of the second chakra, is that it is fluid. There, people who are highly creative oftentimes have a lot of energy that originates in this second chakra. But here's where things can go wrong. And here where yogis oftentimes go so far overboard, in my opinion. Now, I'm coming from a Western culture, so I've sort of corrected the Western culture side of things, which is that the energy in the second chakra, if it's outwardly expressed, one big way it comes out is in terms of over sensuality.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I are both older white guys.
Mm-hmm.
We have a particular view of the world. Our bodies are at a particular stage. But nonetheless, I mean, if for people who are um, our age or even younger, especially, there is a powerful drive that originates from the center, the second chakra.
I can remember it.
And that's I mean, that's sort of the reality. But the memory is a very strong memory.
Yes.
Yeah. And we all know what that feels like. And the secret with working with the second chakra is no different than any of the others. Can we use and cooperate with the positive qualities of that chakra?
Right.
Now, there is no doubt that when it comes to sexuality, that this chakra has a very powerful role to play. I gave you an image,
Yes.
of the human nervous system. If you can put it up for just 1 second, I want to point out one thing.
Sure.
All right. Again, the physical part of or the physical part of who we are, the body we're in, originates in the structure of the spinal cord and the brain. The nerves that go out from the spinal cord and into the body go into, and so I don't know if you can see it on here. Does my pointer even show up? But down here in the sacral center, you have nerves that go to the reproductive organs and to the bladder, right? And that those are the energies that go out from the center into the body. So you can take that down
Okay.
right now. All right.
I was studying it. Sorry, it wasn't.
My point is only to say that there is a physical reality, but we don't want to start with a physical reality and lay that on top of the chakra. The chakra is like the second chakra is so amazing, but it needs to be grounded
Mm-hmm.
because otherwise water will just go anywhere. Water will fly all over the place. But if it's funneled, if it's focused, it can then have a great power, which is to say,
Is it sort of like building an aqueduct?
well, an aqueduct would actually be a great image of it because that aqueduct is like the main pathway of the energy spine moving upward. What I was actually thinking of was there are these devices. This is getting perhaps slightly off topic, but if you have people who are creating one of a kind pieces of metal, they start with a sheet of metal, they put it into a water bath with a lot of sand in it. And then they have a computer hooked up to it. And the combination of sand, earth, and water, second chakra, can create anything. You can create a special one-of-a-kind hood ornament or a grill on a car
Mm-hmm.
or a piece of artwork. And it's designed off of a computer. It's brought into reality by that combination of sand or earth and water. So you have chakra number 1 and 2.
Right. It's fascinating.
It is. And you end up with this amazingly one-of-a-kind reality, which is true for us as well.
Yeah.
That each of us, when it comes time to enter into a new body, we're looking for exactly that situation that will help us to work through our karma, which in the case of second chakra may mean realizing that I'm wasting all of my energy in sexual pursuits. Now, that's a hard claim to make to a 22-year-old man.
Yes.
All right. No, it really is.
Yeah.
So, is any of this making sense at all?
Yeah, and I two things was I had this image of sperm racing to the ovum, and that I understood, but the karma souls in a race to get to that. Once that spark fires, it attracts the one of my questions was does the right karma always win?
Oh, it's a great question, and I would say no, that it may not, because again, everything I share is based on this guy,
Yeah,
Yogananda,
right.
and his teachings.
Biography of a yogi, yes.
Yeah, and his teachings were pure yoga, but in a modern sense. And what I mean by that is that he lived in the 20th century. He was he knew it was so amazing. Without being a scholar or a physicist, he was very tuned in to quantum mechanics and quantum physics.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, he was. It was just eerie that
Right.
some of his writings at a time. This is when Heisenberg and Schrodinger and Einstein, when these really great minds were beginning to come up to the realization that everything changes when you get to the subatomic level.
Right.
The rules of physics no longer apply.
Exactly.
And Yogananda knew that because he was working from the bigger picture. If you go down small enough, you start getting into matters of like entanglement of electrons or photons or
Right.
Subatomic particles. How does entanglement take place? It takes place because there is a single field of consciousness that permeates everything. And if you begin there and come back, you work your way into that same intersection of the physical world and the energy world. And so it is completely reasonable from my perspective that you might have two souls in a race, quite literally. Sometimes that race culminates in both of them arriving at the same time. And that means what?
Twins.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yet, an interesting thing about we used to think that the DNA of identical twins, where you have one zygote that divides into two. We used to think that the DNA was exactly the same for the two.
Mm-hmm.
But that was only because we didn't have the capacity to measure, uh, to map out the entire genome.
Right.
Now,
Until very recently, right?
yes, now there is an apparent distinction between when that zygote divides, immediately or after as many as 13 days, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You end up with, and so if it happens immediately, you get a lot of change between the two individuals. And it can be seen in DNA. And so all of this comes down
Who would have thought it
again.
was the opposite? That's so interesting
No,
to me.
no,
Yeah.
the longer the longer they're paired up,
Oh, of course.
the more
I see now.
they
Yeah.
tend to have fewer divergences in genetically speaking.
Okay.
But when it comes to the energies behind all this, the second chakra is powerful,
Mm-hmm.
and it can be a powerful force that, great yogis have always, and I'm talking about great yogis, by that I mean those people really wanting to go hardcore into harnessing their energies.
Right.
I'm thinking about a couple of Russian mystics that I've mentioned before, Gurdjieff and Uspensky in particular. You read about those guys. They were doing crazy things, and some yogis did them as well, in terms of putting ice around their genitalia in order to cool down that energy, literally in that region, in order for them to be able to pull that energy up
Right.
and use it for higher purposes.
Right. Sure.
So
I get the point. I don't think I would get into the practice, but I understand what you're saying. And
yeah,
one of these things that occurs to me at the time is that we can make the mistake, I think, of repressing or suppressing rather than elevating.
and so the answer does not lie in simply unchecked outward movement of energy from this second chakra.
Correct.
There's a lot of humor. There's a lot of humor in this, by the way.
Yes.
There can be, anyway.
I need Rick.
If you are old enough to remember a show called Cheers,
Yes, of course.
all
Yeah.
right.
Right. Everyone
Well,
knows your name.
the main character, Sam,
Mm-hmm.
he was addicted to sex,
Mm-hmm.
and so there was this one particular episode where he goes to a 12-step meeting for sex addicts.
Uh-huh.
And of course, in that, he finds a woman that he's deeply attracted to, and that's where the humor comes in.
Of course, yes. Right.
And but for most of us, this idea is either that we have to let it all go or suppress it, and that is not the goal.
Right.
All of yoga, including hatha yoga, the yoga postures, will move energy inward and upward.
Upward.
And so that when you take these first two chakras, earth and water, uh, loyalty and creativity, and you begin to move them upward, they're a powerful ally to the upper chakras as well.
Yes, you can see that clearly, right?
And so I wanted to just to refer to some of the things I mentioned last week about chakra number 1. All right, and that is that each of the chakras, when you are deep in meditation, that it's possible to actually hear the sound. And it's not an external sound, it's an internal sound. We don't hear it with the tympanic membrane in our ears,
Right.
vibrating, but we hear it nonetheless in this region, mostly in the right ear. But the first chakra has a sound of like a bumblebee
Mm-hmm.
or a motor running. The second chakra has a sound of crickets, like heard in the distance, or of a water flowing over rocks.
Ah, okay. Right.
That's the sound of the second chakra. When we see the second chakra, the color can sometimes be one, like in the spectrum, which would be orange,
Right.
but it also has, anyway, it doesn't matter. We don't have to go further into it. But I do want to say that these chakras have a reality, both as a color that can be seen, a sound that can be heard, and they also relate to, I mentioned the astrology, and chakra number 2 relates to Sagittarius and Pisces.
Water, Pisces, I get.
There you go, exactly. So you can see the connection there.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, I think any questions, anything at all?
Well, it's fascinating to me to think about the race of the souls, and it's also one of the things that I think in terms of, because I think of myself as a creative person, and you know, and this expression unchecked has, especially when I was young, caused difficulties in my life through desire and
Yeah.
want. And unchecked desire is not a pleasant human experience. Um, and so I would be thinking of this, and I think what I'm modifying my thinking of is, instead of controlling, is the elevation aspect of it. And
Yeah.
to not think in terms of enemies and negativities as allies and integration, because when you can merge the earth with the water, with the first chakra with the second chakra, and get the best of both worlds, this is the aim. This is the goal. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is right.
You have absolutely have it. And again, the idea of cooperation is an important thing. There is this book I've mentioned, the Mahabharata, and
Yes.
I would even
Epic poem.
plug this little book, which is brand new, called The Hidden
Oh.
Story of the Mahabharata. And it just came out. I'm sure it's available on Amazon.
Uh-huh.
The Hidden Story of the Mahabharata. And it is really the story about these 5 brothers. And the 5 brothers are representations of these 5 chakras.
Ah.
And when it comes to this matter of the second chakra, addiction of any type is always a second chakra issue.
Yes.
Always. And it's always about energy going out through the second chakra. Desires, you mentioned it, that's
Right.
exactly it right there.
Right.
This is where we feel such strong desires. I know it comes up into the heart, but that desire can come up as well. And then the heart is ready to totally go out,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And these are not so much desires when it comes to addiction as compulsions.
Yep. And that's exactly it. I shared with you, I think not long ago, that I had dreams that
Right.
persisted 35 years after my last drink,
Right.
and so I finally went to a sound and energy healer, and she, through the use of sound, crystal bowls, gongs, and particular lights and crystals, I have not had a dream
Yeah.
about addiction since.
And this is my version of contempt prior to investigation, because if you told me about gongs and crystals and lights and all that stuff, I would have just said nonsense. But when you have the direct experience, then you can no longer deny it.
Nope. And I was definitely in contempt before I went there. But
Well, phew.
but I had no choice
There's
at that
hope for
point.
me.
I was so I'd been living with these dreams for over 30 years. I
It's an
was tired
amazing
of
story,
it.
Yudisthira. It really is.
Yeah,
And it is aspirational. And I do hope that message gets out there.
good.
There are ways that these things, which are really plaguing you, can be addressed, and not necessarily through the traditional ways that we have been taught in a science and medical orientation in the Western world.
I have actually worked with people suffering from addictions, And their addiction was just sort of like the remainder, they're sort of the last vestiges of an addiction. And through yoga, through asana practice, meditation, other techniques like chanting the chakras, that they were able to successfully make that final step out of addiction. But that's those people are relatively few.
Hmm.
Most of us require something more structured.
Well, perhaps we're all going to find our own way.
Yes.
And I appreciate this wonderful insight that you've granted us again. I feel blessed to have been with you, and I want to tell you that I can't wait until we talk about the third chakra. We're going to get fire into this.
It's a big one. Yep.
Thank you again,
All
and
right.
blessings to you.
Blessings, my friend.
Bye-bye. Okay. Well, now we have just covered a lot of ground there, but I wanted to tell you that if there's something that you want to see, like he mentioned, like our last show, the first chakra, well, you can go to AirU TV. It's scrolling across the bottom of your screen. It's a website that contains all of the previous videos, and so you can check it out. And if you want to contact us, info@airu.tv is the way to do it. And if you have questions you want answered, I could always ask them and get a straight answer for you. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for participating, and have a blessed week.